Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Guess what? We get to finally talk about one of my favorite phones ever released, at least one of my favorite Samsung Note phones that ever got released. And that specific one is the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. Now what's funny is that we saw the Note 10, I bought both models and I reviewed them, compared them, all that stuff. And that was like one of the first times in a while that I actually liked the predecessor more than the successor. So the last time I can think about that the previous phone was better than the prior phone, or the phone afterwards, was probably the Galaxy S6. The Galaxy S5 I think was better than the S6. Maybe even the Note 4. The Note 4 was better than the Note 5. But that really hasn't happened in a while until the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 got released, and that really made me feel like the Note 9 was so much better than what it was, because with the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, even that base model, they removed and made that phone so much weirder than it was. So I feel like the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 in a lot of ways is much better than even the standard Note 10, maybe even the Note 10 Plus in some ways. Now it's all relative to, how much money you have to spend and everything, but I truly do believe the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 is a really good value right now on Amazon. First of all, when it was released, it was selling for almost $1,000, but now because it's older, first of all, it's not even that old. It came out in 2018, so it's really only like barely even 2 years old at this point, but the price has depreciated so much. Right now on Amazon, these things are selling for about less than $380, which is pretty crazy. If you want to pick it up for that price tag, I'll leave a link down in the description. It'll be the first link down there. You can help support the channel at the same time. But that's pretty insane that amount of value has depreciated from this phone, but it's still a very, very good phone without a doubt. Looking on the front, you have a 6.4-inch Super AMOLED display. This one is 1440p by 2960, 516 pixels per inch, and it's still a very, very good panel. There's really nothing inside of me that makes me think it's a bad panel at all. It's one of the best panels ever made on a phone, and I'm standing there right there looking at it all the time, comparing it to other screens and everything, and there's really no other screens in the market that have been able to top this. I would say even the Note 10 Plus, they're all about the same. So yeah, the Note 10 Plus screen's really good too, but this one is really, really great. I love this panel a lot. A really cool thing about this is that we do have the S Pen, which is what the Note line is known for. It's pretty much a stylus, but like on steroids. You can do a lot of cool things with it. You have USB Type-C on this phone, which is really cool, as well as the headphone jack. You have that headphone jack on this phone, which you don't have it on a lot of other phones that are coming out now. And this phone was released in 2018, and it was the last phone from the Note line to have a headphone jack for the most part. So that's a really cool thing they did there. They eventually kept it with the S line as well, so I really do like how this phone has that capability. On the back, you can see a dual camera setup as well as that fingerprint sensor, which is really, really cool. I'm glad they put a fingerprint sensor on their back. I like how it's, nowadays it's in the screen and built in, but I do kind of like how it was a physical button, not a button, but a physical placement on the back. And everybody has their own, but in my opinion, the outside of this phone, the way this phone looks, is still one of the most premium feeling phones ever. Every time I pick it up, it still feels like $1,000 phone. When I compare it to my 11 Pro or my Note 10 or whatever the case is, any other phones, one doesn't really scream to me that it's more premium than the other, which is a huge testament to the build quality of the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. It also has IP68 dust and water resistance, which is really cool. You can go up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. That's a really, really cool thing that you have capable for the Note 9, and a lot of new phones coming out in 2020 have that capability too, which is really cool. You also have a micro SD card slot on this thing, so you have expandable storage, so you can go get the base model of this phone, save some money, and still expand the storage through the micro SD card slot, which is amazing. And just really, this phone has so much going for it still that there's really no reason to look elsewhere. However, there is one place that kind of is a little bit weird with the Samsung Galaxy Note 9, that is actually with the software. So this thing was released with Android 8.1 Oreo. We are able to upgrade it to Android 2.0, but for some reason my model does not want to update to 2.0. I'm still on 1.0, but as far as I know, I ran 2.0 on my S10 and S10e. There's a few differences here and there, but it's all pretty much the same, to be honest. But the thing is that with One UI 2.0, most probably it's going to be the Samsung Galaxy Note 9's last version of software, which is really sad, and it sucks in a lot of ways because the Note 9 is still super capable. But if you've seen Samsung do the same thing with the S8, the S8 and the S9 are super, they're almost exactly the same phone for the most part, but Samsung cut the software for the S8, and they're pretty much going to do the same thing with the Note 9 so far that we know. We have not heard any rumors or anything that they're planning on keeping the Note 9 for One UI 3.0. We honestly have no idea yet. I hope that is the case, because even in my testing and everything, the Note 9 and the Note 10 are very similar in a lot of ways. I don't feel like it would be too hard to port over that software to this specific phone. So as we know, know right now it's probably going to end at One UI 2.0, and that's what the sad thing is. The hardware is super capable. This phone can handle really anything you throw at it for the most part, but the software is the one thing that really just makes me look down on Samsung more than this phone. I think that's just a really bad thing that Samsung's doing. They need to start prolonging the life of their older phones, because then more people will switch to them and buy them. I feel like people would still upgrade the same amount of times, or maybe more people would buy Samsung phones. They already have a huge share. I mean, they always sell so many phones and everything, but I don't think people are happy about the software segment of their phones. So if they can increase that, if they can prolong the life of their phones, that'd be one thing, and I would really, really appreciate that. This phone also has roots and custom ROMs out for it, so you can go down that rabbit hole as well, but it's still getting stock software support, so I'd probably recommend waiting to do that until this phone is completely outdated. But that pretty much covers it up in terms of the software standpoint. Now, hitting on the performance side of things, this thing was released with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 630 GPU, and there were two different models of the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. There was the base model 128 gigs with 6 gigabytes of RAM, and that top tier 512 gigabyte model with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So if you get that base model, you'll have 6. If you get that top tier model, you have 8, but you have that micro SD card slot too. So if RAM isn't an issue, you can always expand the storage that way, which is a great way to save money. Now here's the thing, okay, I had the base model, and even on that base model, I had nothing but great performance on this phone. Really, I have the S10, I have the S10e, I have all these phones, and it felt just like one of those phones. With my Note 8, it was a little bit slower, I can tell. Even the S8, I can tell it's a little bit slower here and there, but the Note 9 was still super blazing fast. Whenever I clicked on an app, whenever I did anything, I felt like it was extremely, smooth for the most part. Well, as smooth as an Android Samsung phone can get on One UI 2.0. It's still not the smoothest, but it definitely got the job done for sure. So basic tasks and, keeping things in the background, really, there weren't really too many issues with it. I really did like it. When you step it up to the more intensive apps, still more or less the same. It was a great performing phone, even on high intensive games, Real Racing 3, things like that, even multitasking with different games. It's all great, and it all does a really, really good job, which I really, really do like. Is it the best thing in the world? Is it the best performing phone? Obviously not. There's definitely phones out there that can do you much better, but I think for the time being, this phone really held its own, and that is a huge testament to the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. It really got the job done for sure. Whenever really I did anything with it, it was fine for the most part. And even on that base 6 gigabyte model phone for that RAM, it was great. I had no issues with it. Keeping apps in the background and everything was completely fine. So you can go down the rabbit hole yourself and see, little like differences in performance and this and that and speed comparisons. But in real world use, I don't think there's going to be that big of a difference, and I think the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 definitely holds up in the performance standpoint. Now moving on to the camera, like I said, this thing has two 12 megapixel sensors on the back, a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens. We also have an 8 megapixel front facing camera, and what you can do with that 8 megapixel front facing camera, you can do 1440p videos, which is really cool. On that back camera though, with those two 12 megapixel sensors, we have the capability of shooting 4K videos at 60 frames per second, which is really, really cool. We can do 1080p at about 240, and overall it's a very, very good camera sensor for sure. It definitely has a thumbs up in my books. Now one thing that I've been saying for a lot of these older phones is basically, if you have a single camera setup, that really does mean that you're kind of, unfuture proofing yourself, or kind of, I don't know the best word, plateauing yourself in a way, because you're kind of, all these new phones that are coming out, like the Samsung Galaxy S20s, the iPhone, even the 11 Pros, and you look at last year's phones, all these phones at least have like dual camera setups for the most part. And if you don't at least have a dual camera setup, you're kind of, lagging behind, because you're going to, you could have the best quality cameras and everything, but if you don't have those camera hardware features, you're kind of already outdated in a lot of ways. It's not a big deal. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but it is kind of an annoyance, and some of you might experience something like that. So if I were you, the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 has great quality photos and videos. Audio quality is a little weird, but you still have that capability of having that telephoto lens and at least one extra camera sensor, which is really, really cool. So that pretty much covers it up in terms of the camera standpoint. Now ending it off with the battery life, this thing has a 4000 milliamp hour battery. It has wireless charging, which is really cool. No reverse wireless charging, but I don't think that's a big deal at all. And the battery life is definitely one of the best things about this phone for sure. It has great battery life, even though it's about a year and a half old. That's actually a plus, because the phone really hasn't had that much time to depreciate, but really that's relative on how well the person before you, if you're getting it used, which is really really the only way to get it, how well that person was taking care of the phone. I think personally that this battery life is really good. I think it's on par with like the newer phones that came out. The only downside maybe is, the screen is pretty big. It's a 1440p display. It has a lot of pixels to push. Sometimes, I want to say that it's not going to be the best performing battery life, but because it does have a big battery, that really kind of overcompensates it. So definitely the battery life on this phone is still very, very good in my eyes. Now that pretty much covers up everything I wanted to hit on. Now to answer the question, is the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 still worth it in 2020? What I can tell you is, yes, this phone is still completely 100% still worth it in 2020. It has a lot going for it for sure. I would say this is better than the Note 10 in a lot of ways, which I've already made a video about, but if you need a phone that'll, keep you lasted for a little bit of time or even for a long time, this phone still has that software updates. It's still getting a bit of security updates, and I think for sure if you need a phone, this one has the thumbs up in my books. Now eBay is probably the best way to go it for the cheapest price, but I'll find the cheapest one on Amazon, link it down below, so you can get it from there and help support the channel at the same time. But that is pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it would mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.